All right, boss.
Yes.
You're 16. How's it feel? Camp go okay, and then talk about your obviously a big test with this opener.
Yeah, camp went really well. Players, did a good job of stacking some pretty good days. We were able to establish some depth in our team, which was good. And you're going to need that in the league we play in, and there's going to be some guys. I've told them more than once that there'll be, if you're going to have a special season, there's going to be a guy or two or three that will have to step up that you weren't expecting to play or have any impact, and that's every good team I've ever been on. It's been like that. So this will be no different if things go the way we hope they do. But yeah, it was good, and we're pretty happy where we're at. I'm not, obviously there's some things we'd like to be a little bit better at, or a little healthier here. But all in all, I think we're in pretty good shape, and in all the areas we need to be in to play our first game. It's time to play a game. Players have had enough of practice and playing against each other, so it'd be nice to play against somebody else. But if it's going to be a tall order, I know a lot about these guys. Played them, 22 years. I was in the Big Ten, and very difficult place to play. It's a fun place to play. It's been the fans are excellent, and we have a great football tradition there. And but we'll be, we'll play against teams with similar type of pedigrees, if you will. Teams that are physical, play great defense, run the ball well. Has a very good play action game. We'll play excellent special teams and we're very well coached. So there's a few teams now, quite a few teams in our league that have that same formula. So it'll get us ready for that kind of schedule. So we look forward to it.
Questions?
How special is a game like this, Coach, when you're recruiting and you've got Iowa, Northwestern, Illinois, Wisconsin on your schedule for a plan?
I think it's everybody wants to play on a big stage, and I think the Missouri Valley is a big stage. To be quite honest with you, every Saturday it's the toughest league I've been a part of. From top to bottom. If you're talking about competitive, this is a really competitive league. But yeah, to play these kind of team games, and I like about them is a bus ride. It's not spend a lot of money on an airplane, and the kids can in Big Ten blueprint, which is really nice for our guys, and they grow up in this part of the country. Most of them, not all of them, but most of our guys from the Midwest, if not Illinois and Chicago area, they grow up with these. They hear about them, they watch these teams, and now they get a chance to play against them. So I think it's awesome. It's great for everybody. I appreciate University of Iowa scheduling the game with us and allowing our players to have that experience. It's going to be fun for them, I think.
What makes the Iowa defense so tough? Not just this year, but really
every year. Every year since I've known them.
Yeah.
They've been really good every year. They're very consistent. Phil Parker is a friend of mine, I guess. We were competitors for a long time, but we become friends. And we both recruited in Michigan. He's from Michigan. He played at Michigan State. Phil, I think, is a year or two behind me in school, but was an excellent player at Michigan State and physical safety. And I was a linebacker, so we have a lot of those things in common. But we recruited in the state of Michigan together when I was in the Big Ten, and we got to be pretty good friends. And he's been a staple there for 26 years. Before him, Norm Parker was there. There's no relation, but Norm was a great coordinator at Michigan State when I was a young coach in the Big Ten. But Phil and Norm aren't related anyway. But Phil's kind of taken that and taken the history of Iowa defense and made it his own. And they've been really good. They're elite defensively. What makes them good is they're very consistent. The coaching staff doesn't change over much. Like I said, Phil's been there Coach Ferentz is 26 years, so he knows the landscape and understands what it takes to be a good player at Iowa, and what kind of fits their system. And they're very gritty. They're physical, and year out, maybe one of the more physical teams in the Big Ten. There's a lot of physical teams in the Big Ten, but they are year in and year out. I would say if you're going to go and put your money on a team that's going to be really physical, it's them. It's been their calling card, and they play their kind of guy. And that means they're very disciplined in what they do. They try to out execute you. That's what they really. They're not a dial up defense. What I mean by that is that they change every week. They don't do that. That's what great defenses do. I mean, they do what they do, and they're going to they're going to execute you. That's their mindset, and they're very, very, very well coached. So, but that's kind of been their recipe. I talked to them about, when we were recruiting the same kind of player at Purdue and the kind of kid we get here at Illinois State, really, to be honest with you. This is very similar to Purdue or Wyoming, for example, where you go get a tough kid and try to develop them, and by year 4 and 5, you got yourself a really good player. But they've kind of stuck to that mentality, maybe the old way of doing things. And we've all had to kind of adjust with the transfer portal, and they have too, but not a ton of guys, but they have a few, particularly the quarterback position. But most of their defensive guys this appears to be most of their defensive guys have been in the program for a while, and they've been through the system. So their system works, and they recruit their system, and they might pass on a really talented player if he doesn't fit the mindset of Iowa football. And it all starts with Coach Ferentz, but Phil Parker is one of the finest at what he does in college football, and been very impressed with him for a long time. But consistency, I guess, is probably what drives that football program.
What's the one part of your ball club that you're most anxious to see when the lights come on? Either side of the ball.
Good question. That's a really good question, actually. Most people would think quarterback, but which we're all curious to watch. But I'm looking forward to watching our front seven on defense. Being a defensive guy and seeing maybe some of the strides we've made, hopefully in the off season to become better there. We're kind of like Iowa. We get guys into our program and we want them to develop, and we've been able to develop a good group of guys, we think, and they're still pretty young, but kind of curious to see how these guys play at this level. Now that some of these guys haven't played in a game like this, some of them have. So I'm very curious to watch our front seven on defense. That will be the obviously the true tell sign of what will happen. And I think in this game, because they're very good at running the football. George Barnett, who was one of our former running offensive line coach here, is an excellent coach, and we know they're going to be well coached there for sure. And they've always been good up front. It's just who they are. And so if we can be curious to see how we match up in a game like this, that'll be very interesting. Good question.
Up front, they're still a 4-3 team, aren't they, Coach? An even team. I know that everybody's multiple today.
Well, they're under team. More under than over. They'll get down in some 3-down stuff, but it's long yardage, but not a lot. But they're an under team, a little bit over, but a lot of under for them. So under to everybody means the 3 techniques to the weak side of or the 2-man surface or the boundary a lot of times. But they're an under team. They've not changed since it's been 16 years. I've coached in the Big Ten, and they were the same there. They're under, and they played heavy shades, and they're going to make life miserable up front for you. They play thick and square. You hear us say that a lot around here on defenses. It's a Big Ten-ish type of formula. You got to play thick and square on the line of scrimmage and build a wall. With your square shoulders, square hips. Good platform. Take on blocks and don't get knocked out of gaps, but they're very, very thick and square all the time, and they stay that way because they're very strong and physical. And I've always been a big fan of their weight program. They've always been really good there too. So, but they're physical, thick and square. Under team.
New offensive coordinator for them, obviously.
Yeah.
still an Iowa football team. You would think still going to run the football significantly, just probably hidden behind a lot more motion, a lot more bells and whistles.
Probably window dressing, maybe a little bit better term. Maybe yes, yeah. And it's probably, when you use motion, sometimes you're trying to gain an advantage with motion, either with in the passing game with an extra receiver, or in the running game with an extra blocker. That can obviously be, or you're trying to deceive the defense, get their eyes working, and Ted will tell you the first thing you got to have as a defender is you got to have great eye discipline. So it means you got to have your eyes on your key and not worry about all the peripheral stuff. And so eye discipline will be big. They do have their professional football background. I think with the Green Bay Packers, coach has probably been they like to get your eyes in the wrong spot. Even those guys can do that, and they football players have a tendency to be ADHD. They can't pay attention, and me being one of them, and me being probably front of the class that way, so that not all of us. A lot of times you're trying to gain some type of advantage with numbers, but sometimes you're trying to gain an advantage with just occupying the eyes of the defender, and that's why they do it. And sometimes it changes the strength of the formation. Sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes it will. And it's just there's a lot to it. But they have a method to that. There's a method to that madness, if you will. I mean, you move guys around to get people, out of position. And the most important part is the eyes of the defender. We can't get too mesmerized by that, because then you get confused. And so you gotta know where your eyes should be. And nope, where your eyes supposed to be on this particular call. So that's the key to playing really good defense. So that's a good point. Good question.
The week before the opener, I know you've been doing this a while, but what keeps you up at night? Are you thinking about, do we have everything in?
The unknown. Yeah, it's just the unknown. Yeah, no one, even, you're talking about with a new, but we faced Coach when he was the head coach at Western Michigan. He was, that was his offense. But now he's been with the Green Bay Packers, and now he's at University of Iowa. So you kind of, is he going to marry all that stuff? And I will probably be right on this. Sometimes I'm wrong, but usually I'm right on this. Iowa's not going to change what they do run the football. They have run the football really well against really good defenses. So if they change a drastically different running game, I'd be stunned, because they've been really good at it. It's what we call a stretch as outside zone, an inside zone. They have power, which is a gap scheme, and then they have counters, which is a gap scheme. But I think you'll see them hand the ball off to the guys, the receivers going in motion. They might be in the gun a little bit more, maybe. I don't know. They might be. But pro football, most of the time the guys are under center, but they could do it probably out of either way. So you might see a different twist, to a little bit different taste to the running game, but they've been really good at those two plays, outside zone, inside zone. I mean, what most people call stretch, and it's an NFL play. Coach Ferentz is an offensive line coach. He was Coach Belichick's offensive line coach of the Cleveland Browns. He was a offensive line coach at University of Iowa. When I took my official visit there, I mean, I'm old. He's really old, I guess, because I was a player. Because he's not going to be there, so I don't have to. I can say that, right? He won't to scold me. But he's an excellent offensive line coach, and they're not changing that. I just don't see them changing that. And they're really good at it. And when I will tell you, most people know this, but football people know. Everybody in the stadium knows what sometimes certain teams are going to be, what they're going to do, what's their staple runs or defense, and great teams are like that. They have a philosophy, and and they play off of that. That I don't see that changing at Iowa, because they can still run. They run the football well. I don't see where that'll make a big difference. I think it'll be very similar. I'm sure they'll have some different twists, and we'll have to be ready for it. But they're excellent at those two plays, and the counter and the gap schemes have been a part of what they've done since I was coordinating against them. So I can tell you, close my eyes and wake up, and it's been 20 years later, but that's the same runs. But they'll probably, what they'll do is they'll probably masquerade that behind all the movement, and which a lot of good teams do, right? And football is a game of deception. And on both sides of the football, we try to deceive each other by the way we line up, by the way we motion on offense, all kinds of things to try to make sure to get the defense or whatever. We try to make the offense, the quarterback, uncomfortable. It's just what we all do. It's just part of the sport. And I don't see them changing from those two plays. I just don't. But we'll see. But guess what? We got to stop the play. And a lot of people. You remember seeing everybody seen the movie Billy Jack when you were? You probably don't remember Billy Jack. Billy Jack. When Billy Jack gets in the movie and says, "You know what? I'm gonna put my right foot on the side of your face, and there's nothing you can do about it." That's Iowa football, and that's, they're gonna try to run that outside sprint and that inside zone, and they're gonna say there's nothing you're gonna do about it. So, and that's great teams are like that, and that's just the way they are. I mean, and they're good, they're a really good football team. So. Anything else? Everybody good? All right. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.